Hey guys, this is Evangelist Ruth Arzola, and welcome back to our podcast. We are really excited to what God is going to do here today. We have a special guest, and this is Sierra.
Hi.
Present yourself, Sierra.
Hi, my name is Sierra, and I am invited here.
And this is her first time being interviewed, and she's going to be answering some questions. As you can see, the topic is called Remaining in God. So I had the time to choose this topic like during the week, and I think it was like on Wednesday. On Wednesday, I was telling Sierra, we should make a video before you leave because she has been here for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
2 weeks. And I'm like, Sierra, we have to make a video before you leave. So today we are excited to make this video for y'all, for all the women of God that are out there, or all those young ladies out there that are looking for God, or they're like a beginner in walking in their path with Christ. So really excited. So before we continue, go ahead and subscribe and follow us and be a part of this ministry. We have been a part of this ministry for a very long time. Glory goes to God. Ministries, God has blessed us with it, and we're really excited for what the Lord is going to do in this year of 2025. Also, go follow Sierra as well in her social medias. It will all be in the description box. So please go check her out. She is a woman of God, a minister as well. This lady knows what she's doing, all right? So we're going to go ahead and start the podcast. So Sierra, and this is all being real. This is all raw footage, all right? So there might be edits, there might not be edits, okay? So you're going to be real, okay? Do you have anything to say to the audience before we continue?
Always look for God.
Always look for God. That's the key thing, right?
Yeah, always look for God, always put him first. Kind of going with the theme, What was the theme?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Remaining in God.
Remaining in God.
Yes. Remaining in God.
It goes with the theme, remaining in God. And part of remaining in God is always just making sure you put him first. You don't have to be perfect. This is not about perfection. This is not a walk of perfection. This is a walk of just being consistent.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what it looks like. Be consistent.
All right. That's great. I love that. So before anything, in this podcast, I really want to focus on, because I do know that people, when they ask questions, people like biblical verses, because there's just people that are out there like that. They like verses just to back it up, which I completely understand, because we were raised in the Pentecostal realm, and you gotta be, on top.
In the word.
In the word, okay? It has to be directly from the word. So that's why we have our Bibles here, just to have some proof. So, remaining in God. So that's the topic for tonight. The first question I'm going to be asking to Sierra is going to be how to stand in God's plans. Meaning, what can we do and how can we do that? How can we remain ourselves in the plans of the Lord?
Well, first going to the word. I want us to go to Exodus chapter 2, verse 3.
Perfect.
I want to read the word in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. That's it. So this is the story, as many know, as the story of Moses. The reason why this is so important is because part of remaining in God, she had a child whom she hid for 3 months. And when she decided to put this child into the Nile River, she had to let the child go. And that's very important. Remaining in God is sometimes going to require us to let certain things go.
That's right.
And the way we do it, it's not going to be in a rush, deprisa. It's not going to be you frantically. She wasn't frantic. She hid her kid for 3 months. I was screaming and crying. And those who have children know that that's something or siblings, that's something hard to do. True. Hide hide a child for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so when she decided to get the materials, she wasn't scrambling for the materials. She didn't go to the Nile River all panicky, starting to rip everything off and then just say, hey, I'm just going to send this kid in the Nile River. This is something that was thought through. This was something that she went intentionally, and she intentionally made this papyrus basket. This is something that was definitely planned, and when she did the papyrus basket, she put her child in the basket. The child for me represents something that she loves. And there's going to be times where God is going to ask us to let go of the things that we love. Now, with this being said, how does this have to do with remaining in Him? This has a lot to do with our walk with God. There are things that we want. There are things that, you know, it's funny. The word says, in Spanish, it says basically like, you know, not everything is permissible.
Yes.
You know, not like, so even though it's not necessarily God saying no to you, it doesn't necessarily mean like you can, you know, like you can go ahead and do it. Like just because God is allowing it in your life and it's something you love to do, it doesn't always mean that just because He's allowing you to do it doesn't mean He wants you to do it in the moment. Hopefully that makes sense.
That does make sense what you're saying. And I'm going to continue on with what you're saying, because usually like remaining in God and His plans is very difficult in this generation. Like, I am glad that I brought Sierra here, because Sierra can actually give you like testimonies and like how she was able to live up her like relationship with God in a young age. Just like me, like I'm 20 years old. Sierra is in her like 30s, right? Am I correct? And you know what? She still look good. Look at her. She still look good.
You.
So, you know, I love what you're saying, because sometimes the generation, they focused on the no. So why I say that? Because we go to God with this expectation of like, God has to say yes with what I'm asking for. Now, if we keep having that mentality, right, of God is going to say yes, your yes is going to turn into a no. Let me explain. My father, which is a pastor, he told me something that really impacted me. Like, I was going through a moment in my life where I was like, God, is this your will? Is this your will? And my dad put me aside and he said, if you make that as your only prayer, if you make your prayer just only for your miracles, for your blessings, God is not going to bless you. One of the reasons why is because you're going to God, and there's no problem on asking. You can ask to God. But when you make it as a constant thing, and that's only your prayer, oh God, I want this. I want this. When is going to be the time? I want this. You're telling God, that's my first priority. So you're not remaining in God in that point. You're remaining in your will. So that's where God starts to say, you know what? I see you only focusing on this. I can't give it to you now. Now I need you to wait.
Yeah.
And you know what? For us to make that as our first priority, we lost a blessing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when you make your blessing as your first priority, you lost your blessing at that point. Now you got to wait even longer and learn how to put God first instead of that blessing. Yeah. So I love how you said that, because remaining to God is not easy, especially as a youth that deals with a lot of like insecurities, low self-esteem, comparing their lives to others. Oh, he or she got married, or they have a good career. I want that career. Oh, they're getting more money than me. You know, all these things, people focus so much on them. But like I said, you are different. And sometimes remaining in God is the best thing to do instead of not remaining in Him. Let me tell you why. And this is where we're going to get into our next question. All right. So what I have for you, Sierra, for the next question is, even remaining in God, there's going to be moments where the devil's going to attack. All right. So the second question that I want to ask Sierra is how to not fall into temptations, meaning how to fight, how to resist temptations of the world or our struggles. Yeah. So what should we do when we deal with those situations?
I'm glad you asked, because it really goes with what I was saying earlier. So a temptation can look like anything. It can even look like something simple that you want. And I don't know, can I talk about like
anything?
Okay.
Anything.
So One of the personal temptations I had recently was I really wanted to go to New York when I wanted to. Now, even though, my husband was behind me going, he's like, you can go, you can go be with your family, you can go spend time there, all these things, right? But I understood within myself that even though it's something that I want, and even though it's something that I'm being permitted, God would allow me to go and my husband would allow me to go. I also realized, like, just because there's the yes behind it, I'm like, wait a second. There's that yes, there's the temptation to take that. That's what I mean.
Come on.
There's a temptation to take it and run with it, right? Like, God, la puerta está abierta. All the doors open, yo me voy. Right?
For real. Oh, Lord.
But I knew within myself, I said, but I know I don't run my own life. I know that God is the one that ultimately gives me the yes or the no. So I said, God, I want to go. Can I go? And then what really came to mind was that story with Moses' mom. That story to me was very important because she had her child, and just the form that she did everything was not rushing. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't deprisa. She wasn't, because ultimately, even though I'm allowed to go, I feel like I would be rushing because there's still things here I have to finish.
That's true.
I'm still in my studies, and there's still things I have to finish. So the first thing I was thinking of was Moses' mom at the Nile River rancando everything, and was she saying, okay, they're gonna find my son? And she wasn't doing all of that. She actually hid her son for 3 months.
Wow.
She was being patient. She wasn't at the Nile River.
She was waiting for the right time.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then making the papyrus basket, she wasn't, because if she made it, let's just say she made it in a rush. Have you ever made a project in a rush and the whole thing just, like, somebody blows on it and it just falls? Okay, if she did that for Moses, he would have sank in the river. So I was talking to God. I said, okay, God is like, it's not that you can't go. It's just, I need you to go first, accomplish these things. First, make the basket. Let's talk about that. First, make the basket.
Come on.
Right? And then make the plan. Because even when he sent, when God spoke to the mother or whatever, when the mom, sorry, God didn't speak to the mother. Let me pause that just in case.
It's okay.
When the mother decided to send her son, she sent the son with the daughter. The mom stayed probably working while Moses' sister Miriam kept the eye out.
Yes.
Anybody that prisa, what do we do? I gotta go. I'm gonna miss a day of work. I gotta get there. I gotta go. I gotta see for myself if he made it. I have to see my blessing. I have to make sure my blessing's still alive and if he made it. Miriam, she sent her daughter, and the daughter's the one that looked out for Moses in the meantime while he was going down the river to see where he would end up. Well, ultimately, he ends up with Pharaoh's daughter. And I guess out of that, what impacts me is just the fact that Miriam was there, and when Pharaoh's daughter says, oh, like, how am I going to feed this child? Or whatever she said, paraphrasing, guys, Miriam stands up and says, I know a wet nurse, which is Moses' mom.
Yes.
Right? But imagine this, if Moses' mom was to go. If she was the one watching Moses go down the river. You know what would happen? It would look suspicious.
Yep. Wow.
It would look crazy.
You saying that? Ooh! That just brought something in my mind.
It would look crazy.
Oh my God.
It would look crazy because she would be going,
They would know something is like.
They would be like,
something
this lady
is
she's obviously trying to protect, and if anything, that could have gotten her son killed faster.
Yes, that's true.
So with that being said, that's why I learned in my decision making, like, there's things that I want, and always, just because God says yes, like, let's just say you got that job and God said yes to you getting that job. Okay, accept the job, amen, glory be to God, but pray about it.
Come on.
Yeah, you can get a yes. You can get a yes, but still pray about it. Just because the door opened, don't run right through it.
Not all the yeses are from God.
Yes, and you have to make sure. You have to make sure. So part of me, like, my temptations has always been, okay, God, like, when God says yes, I'm like, okay, all right, so let me pray, because, yes, I've been praying in the beginning, but at least for this situation with me going to New York, because I do miss my parents.
Yeah,
I do miss
you miss that type of environment.
Yeah, I miss it a lot.
If you're from New York, you understand.
Yep. And so with that being said, it's kind of like, okay, I was like, because I remember my husband telling me, well, just go, you know, like, I'm letting you go. I have no problem with you going. And I'm like, yeah, I know you have no problem with me going, but I need to make sure God is okay.
Wow. I love that. I love how she says, wow, this generation, youths, adults, listen up here. Let's do a little like, what's it called?
Snap.
Snap right here.
Snap.
Because you know why? Because she said her husband told her, yes, go right ahead. But she's like, but even though your yes means a lot to me,
yes,
I'm going to go to God and make sure it's a yes for him.
Yes.
This is how you know, this is where you got to be aware. You got to have discernment. Because you know what, like Sierra was talking about, based on like what's it called, going to New York and stuff like that. You know, it really impacted me because we had a moment to talk about it.
Yeah.
And mind you guys, we're going to be really like real with you all. Like we were like practicing this podcast and stuff like that because I'm not good. I'm not good when it comes to asking questions, number one. But I do it because for the glory of God. Amen. So I was talking to Sierra, and when she was telling me, she's like, you know, this has to be done and this has to be done. And I was like, wow, I went through the same situation. I was in a job, a full-time job. I was an assistant teacher, and you know, and I'll be honest with you, I was making good money. And me making good money, I had school as well. Now, me having a full-time job and school was so hard for me to have in my life. Like, I would clash. I'd be like, I gotta go to work, but I have school. So it was so much for me. And all of a sudden, during that month, I was talking to God. I was like, God, but I want to finish school. God, I want to get my diploma. Mind you, I finished high school in the age of, I think, 20, in the age of 20. And for people, that's probably like embarrassing for others. And for me, it's not embarrassing because I needed to think about me. And it's because I'm different, okay? Everybody's different. Everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different, like, process. So that's why I don't doubt or I don't let people make me feel bad of, like, graduating at that age because it's a goal for me. You know, it was a goal for me that I was able to achieve. So one day I was, like, telling God, I need to finish school. That same week, the Lord took my job away.
Wow.
And you know what's powerful about it? I didn't need to do anything for it because I was good at my job.
Yeah.
But the first thing they had to tell me, hey, Ruth, you're an assistant teacher. You're going to get out of compliancy. Meaning that you being a teacher, you weren't able to finish all the courses for childcare. Meaning now you can't work in here.
So you were doing the childcare courses for your job.
Yes.
Plus your regular school courses. Plus you were working the actual job.
Yeah.
So you were doing all three things at the same time.
Yes. That's why it was like so stressful. So when that happened, she was like, you have to finish it by like February the 7th. I was like, I can't. That's a lot of classes. I don't have time. So that same week, I lost my job. And I went to God and I'm like, but God, why? And God is like, didn't you ask me? Didn't you tell me that you want to finish school? Now we got to take out what's out of order and make it into order. And in the word of God, it says in Corinthians, and I'm going to read it because, I mean, it's really simple. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33, it says right here. Okay, give me a second. I'm looking for it, guys. Give me a second. It says, for God is not a God of confusion, but of peace.
Yes.
So, you might be confused where you're at. You might be confused with what's going on surrounding you. But God always finds a way to allow his peace to come through. Everybody's saying, but Ruth, what does it have to do with temptation? You know why it has to do with temptation? Because just like how Sarah was saying, temptation doesn't have to only be lust.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to only be addiction. It doesn't have to only be all those things. It doesn't, because that's the thing. People just see that as temptation.
Yeah.
People say, oh, temptation can also be fornication. No, it doesn't only that.
Yeah.
It's not only that. Temptation can also be you like receiving a job out of nowhere and you need that job because of the pay, but God hasn't given you the privilege to be able to proceed.
Yep.
That can be temptation.
Yep.
So it can be anything. So I love this verse because sometimes in the midst of our confusion, God makes a pathway for us to be able to know what's going on. This is not the thing that God wants me to have. So I need to move out. I need to get out of that place.
Yeah.
So I love what you said. That really, really allowed me to really open up a little bit more on that.
I guess what impacts me was her temptation was the temptation, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's the temptation to not only make money, but to be satisfied in that job and then not move forward with her future career.
Yes, you got it right.
Yeah. Because it's like it's the here and now, and then example, you could have easily gotten away with not having a high school diploma, working that job, doing the courses for that job, and then having that incomplete in your life.
Yeah.
And then just saying, well, I'm working, I'm making good money, because that's the temptation.
Yeah.
It's being complete and saying, well, I'm providing for my family, I'm helping out.
I'm satisfied.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so I can relate to that, because just like her, I actually have been taking years in school. Years, guys. I am not proud of it. I'm taking years. And it's not necessarily on purpose. It's because in between, in the road, I would get distracted. So example, same thing as you. I could start working and be like, well, or I could be like, well, I'm working school. I could take my time. Or I could say, oh, I'm going to go visit family. That's what I just told you now. Wow. I could visit family and pause that. And just put it on pause, right? And say, I'll get back to it. Always be there.
Oh, wow.
Right? But I think as ministers, it's wonderful to be a minister, but I think God also wants us to complete the things.
Come on.
You know, because how do we look as ministers saying, oh, I'm a minister, and then they ask you, oh, how much schooling, like, for your high school or even your college have you finished? And you say, oh, I got, like, example, you say, oh, I finished my 4-year degree, but I only have a couple months left. Finished a couple months. Oh, I'm doing high school, I only have 2 classes, I finished the 2 classes. You know, and it's always when it gets the toughest, the enemy.
Yes.
This one gets the toughest. It's like for me, the toughest right now is I completed all my master courses, but the toughest is my exams.
Wow.
I finished all my classes, all of them. All 60 credits for my masters, but my test.
Wow. It's the enemy.
It's the enemy, but it's also me.
It's also you, though.
Exactly. Same thing I know with you for school. It was like you had like 1 class left, 2 classes. You were about to finish, but it's that ending part.
It's the ending
where
part.
How
do you finish?
Where the enemy just attacks you the most. Like,
that's so true.
I remember when you were going through your process, and it was like she was this close.
Yes, guys.
This close. And I know that it's like the enemy just starts to attack. And
it was actually funny though, because there were some days that she would call me. It's like, how's your school going? Oh, I'm here in Starbucks. I'm doing 10 assessments every day. And you know what? Mind you, like in that time, I didn't have no job. Like I didn't have a job. I was actually finishing school. So me finishing school and stuff like that, I was like, no, I gotta get it done now. It was like I was not procrastinating. Every day I really pushed myself to do 10 assessments. No person will do it unless you're in college. So this is high school, mind you. I'm like getting it done. Even my teacher would be like, why you're so getting everything done right now? And I'm like, because I've been here for a long time and I gotta get out. You see, there's a point in the season where you have to get out, like fast. And there's some seasons where you gotta rest.
Yeah.
I rested way too much. I rested way too much. So me being so comfortable with like, I'm gonna get it done later. I looked at my age and I'm like, oh no, like this is not how it is.
Same.
I looked at my age, I'm like, I'm 20.
Yeah.
Oh no, I gotta get this done now.
Yeah.
I was like, let's not continue before I continue. All right, so either way, the next question, and this is where you can testify and be able to speak about like any testimony that you have. When was the time you failed to remain in God? Meaning, when was the time that you didn't remain in God, and how do you know you weren't remaining in Him? She got many.
I got many.
We both have many. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes people look at me and they assume, oh, you know, like you seem like
you're on top of it.
Yeah, you seem like you never.
Trust me,
struggle.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen you like that before.
What?
Yes. I would be like, yo, Sierra's on top of it. Sierra, like, I'm telling you, it's funny because it's like, I see her pray in the morning, or she would tell me, like, on FaceTime, she would be like, yeah, I prayed this morning, I fasted this morning. I'm like, yo, I need to do something about, like, my fasting a little bit. Yeah. So I'd be like, she's on top of it, but we don't know that.
Exactly. It's the things that people, I say it's the small things, but it's the things that people consider that are small, but in reality, they're big deals. So for me, I would say, like, where I failed God the most, I would say is in my faith. My faith is troubled. It's troubled. It's getting better daily, but I can't even lie. I'm not gonna even lie and say, oh, it's been easy and I've been up there. No, it's troubled.
It's troubled.
Yeah. And here's the thing in the Bible, it says without faith it's impossible to please God.
That's right.
So that's where I say it's troubled. It's something that I've been working on, but recently, I would say before I came here, maybe last week, I was talking to the pastors for parents, and I was just talking to them about how I was feeling, what I've been going through in terms of, like, how upset I am and how sometimes I feel like I am being obedient and I'm just not seeing.
And you don't see it.
I don't see it. I'm a person sometimes, I'm like,
you feel like your work is not.
I'm looking at the watch.
Oh,
I'm looking at the
wow.
clock. I'm looking at the days. I'm counting down the years. And I remember talking to your parents about it. And here was the funny part. The 2 verses that they gave me was, I know your dad's mentioned to me about Hebrews 11, about having faith.
Yes.
And then he also mentioned to me about having faith like a mustard seed. The next day when I went to church, those were the 2 verses that they spoke about. And so I understood. I said, okay, God, like, first of all, it's by God's grace that he's even talking to me about it, but I would say that's like the area I've been struggling in. How I've been handling it,
it's been hard.
It's a step that I know I have to take, and
it takes time.
Yeah.
But don't allow it to indulge or
So like example, you never know what anybody else is going through, and I was talking to somebody, and I guess I realized, like, I've been taking, so I have my master's degree, but I have to take a graduation exam, and I also have to take a state exam. And I realize and I recognize that as I take these exams and I fail them by like 4 points, by 5 points, my faith already is coming in troubled.
Wow.
It's coming
when it's supposed to be. Wow. Come on.
I want a lot of things, but my faith, it's like I come in like, all right, let me take this exam. Let me not pass again.
Like, that's your mentality already.
And then when I don't pass, I'm shocked.
Wow.
But I told myself, I said, God's already been talking to me about my faith. Maybe this time I just need to study and have more faith. Not in my capacity, but in his.
That's right. Oh, I like that.
Yes. Like, so now it's for like this for everything. Something I would say, like, once you get married, there's going to be times where you cannot obviously change this person.
That's right.
And yes, you could be in a godly relationship, and it could be for simple stuff.
Yeah.
It could be like, let's just say you don't like, well, I mean, you'll find this more with females, but let's just say you don't like if he leaves hair or water on the sink or something.
Or you don't like when he leaves the toilet up.
Yes.
I'm just saying that because that's something that be happening.
Yeah. So it could be something like that. But
I'm not married, though.
But it could be something like that. And it's the fact, or this could even happen with family members. And you could talk to them and talk to them and talk to them. And here's the thing. Yes, you can talk to them. But the hardest part, I have to say, is accepting that you can't change them and accepting that only God can. Like, that's the hardest part.
There are some works. Wow. You have a job and God has a job.
Yes.
Your job can be to be the iron, because in the Bible it says iron sharpens iron, right? The way how you walk, the way how you talk, the way how you live can sharpen the iron of that person, right? Just the same as them, right? But there are some things that we try to touch and we can't do anything because it's God's place.
In the same way when you evangelize.
Yes, there you go.
You go, you evangelize to somebody, and I've been in situations where I used to evangelize, minister, fly here, fly there. Let me explain why I'm saying that. Because I would get so angry.
Come on.
When I would evangelize, and these people won't change.
Come on.
And I'll be like, my God, I'm doing this all the time.
What was the point of me praying for you?
What was the point of me breaking my back?
That's crazy.
And I can relate all this stuff. And you get really upset.
Get anxious.
And then God says, but I just needed you just to go there and plant the seed. I didn't need you to do.
Wow, you saying that? It's like Jonah.
Yeah.
If it was, I don't remember the place that he had to go to. It was
Nineveh.
Nineveh, right? So that place, or in those people, they were really like hard-headed people. Mm-hmm. So Jonah didn't want to do the will of God because he was so focused on the people that didn't want to receive the word.
Wow.
Now, him having that mentality, that's where God is like, what are you trying to do? Like, all I need you to do is just give out the word and that's it. That's why God tested him at the end of the book. Where the Lord, if I'm not mistaken, where the Lord has placed a plant. It was a plant.
Yeah.
And a worm, if I'm correct, a worm or a bug, don't come at me, okay? A worm or a bug starts like eating the plant.
Yeah.
And Jonah said, but why?
Yeah.
But why did you do that? Like, why did you allow that? And God was trying to tell him is like, you see, the only thing that you have to do is to give out my word and I will do the rest.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to tell him, I don't care if they don't receive the word or not, I'm still going to be God. I still have to do everything. I still have to do miracles happen. I have to allow all these things because I am God. So that's like, and you know what's crazy? Mm-hmm. He has gone through unnecessary things. A big fish took him for 3 days.
A big fish took him.
And you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny because it's crazy how a lot of us, we were just like, oh God, I want to hear your voice. Mm-hmm. But the Lord already has spoken to you. Mm-hmm. It's just that you don't want to step into his plans. Mm-hmm. Let's be real, let's be honest, because that's normal. That's normal. And just like what Sierra was saying about like that minister going up to people praying and like you get so frustrated because you can prophesy something and still they don't take it into an account. I'm a minister and that happens to me a lot. Sometimes I'll be like, Lord, like, okay, I prayed for this person, why they're not, and God had to stop me and say, hold up, that's not your place. Yeah. This is your place. Yeah. But my place as God is to do it myself. Mm-hmm. Take things that are out of order and I'll put it in order.
Exactly.
So,
and the same thing goes for when you get married or when you're dating somebody. That you're gonna see some things, and there's some things you have to accept that you have to pray about, so that God can change the person.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
And there's a video coming up on that. So,
but when God does it, it's easy.
It's easy.
When God does it, it's easy for sure.
It's true. It's true. So I love how you explained on how to be. And how did you know? How did you know you were wrong?
When
you were not remaining in God.
Oh, for like the faith aspect?
Yeah, how do you knew?
It was spoken twice.
Really?
Your dad spoke and then when I went to church.
That's good.
Nothing's a coincidence. I may not always been the fastest, the strongest, or the smartest. But when something's repeated to me,
you're like, oh.
Once. It takes one time for me.
Yeah.
It does not take 7 times. Sometimes it might take twice.
If you're 7 times, you're ignorant. I'm sorry.
But we don't judge those.
We don't judge.
That little extra. But definitely for the second time, like, it just takes like 1 or 2 times for somebody to talk to me and for me to consider what they're saying and actually like, because if you ignore everything, you'll never hear the voice of God. If everything for you is a coincidence, te lo digo ahora, you won't hear God.
You're basically telling God, like, whatever you're saying.
Because if I would have said after the first time when your dad spoke to me and your mom spoke to me, and then the second time when I went to church, if I would have said that's a coincidence, then I would never hear the voice of God.
You won't.
So for me, what I realized that God was talking to me was in the second time when I came out of church. I was like, bueno, yo tengo que cambiar mi fe because I need to change my faith.
And he literally got you a mustard seed for you to see it.
Exactly. And
the person brought an example, and he was passing out mustard seed.
Yep. So
that's how God does it. Yeah. For me, I have gone through that. A time where I felt in remaining in God would be, when I was dealing with a lot of friendships. And I say that because before, when I was like, I think 16, the age of 18, that was a process for me because I was so used to having friends. And in that age of youth, you know, you're a youth, you really don't care. Like, you want friends. That's normal, right? But when I started losing friends over time, that's where I was like, dang, I don't have nobody. I don't have this. I don't have that. And how did I felt remaining in God? Well, even though they left, I kept going back. I kept going back. I kept asking for friendship. And the more I kept asking, the more I started getting out of where God placed me in. Because sometimes God places you in places where you don't want to be at. Being alone. Loneliness, you shouldn't see it as a negative thing. You should see it as a good thing. Because when God puts you in a season of loneliness, or like, let's just say isolation so it can sound nice. When God puts you, because loneliness for people is like, oh my God, I'm depressed. No, it's the isolation. And I had to learn that loneliness is not depressed. Like, that's not depression. Loneliness is when God separates you. And he's trying to allow you to understand something. Because if there's so many people surrounding you, or your job, or whatever that's distracting you, and you couldn't understand it while having those things, God is like, okay, she wants to understand, he wants to understand. I'm going to separate them to have a time of loneliness so that they can see what I'm trying to tell them. And that's how God works sometimes. So God was working with me in that area because I kept going back to my past all the time. And I would dwell on it and dwell on it. And what happened when I kept dwelling on it? I started getting angry. I started getting resentment. I started saying, God, I don't care about people. I'm tired. I got my walls up. Back in that time, I was having my walls up. I didn't forgive the people that left me. And I would tell God, but what's the point? What's the point of me saying sorry? And ever since that happened, God had to work with me. So, months later come in. You know, me being so ignorant and stuff. And then I was being hard-headed because I was being stubborn. I told God, oh, I'm not going to say sorry to nobody, blah, blah, blah. One day, God confronted me. And when God confronts you, I don't know if you're a beginner, you're getting to know God. But when you know God, you know God's voice. Oh, you know something's wrong. Because I don't know, when God speaks to me serious, it's like, oh, that's a warning. That I have to be cautious about this. I have to yield. Because if I don't yield, something is about to go down. All right? I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through that unnecessary storm. Because sometimes God allows you to go through storms that you think that you can handle, but you can. It's just that those storms are a little.
There's God-created storms where you're okay to go through those. And then there's storms that we make.
Yes.
We don't want to make a no storm. You rather go because some people tell me, as an example, they'll say, I went through a process. I said, wait, let's divide it.
Let's see who started
Let's see who's the thing is. Because they'll be like, ay, yo pasé por un proceso. Wait a second, hermanita. They'll say, I went through a process. Let's talk about this process. Okay, was this you, the devil, or God? Let's divide it in what's going on.
Oh my God.
Because sometimes it's just you.
Come on.
Like, I love my husband, but there's been times where I sat him down and I said, that sounds a little weird. that sounds like something. I tell him, I'm like, that sounds like a problem you created. And
I don't think that's a God problem.
Yeah, and he'll be like, because he'll say, I passed through a process. I said, that's not a process.
What process?
That's not a process. A process is something that God has allowed to happen in my life, as an example. God allowed it to happen in my life, and it was because it was God ordained. God allowed it. God can allow the devil to do something.
Like Job,
right? But now here's the thing. It can't be you. You can. Some people, like as an example, some people will be nasty. They'll be nasty to everybody and say, no, but they'll say, I'm going through this process. No, you were nasty. That's why nobody likes you.
You were nasty.
You were nasty. That's why nobody
There's
likes
a file on you.
Yeah.
It's like in the crime.
And so then everybody who bumps into you says the same thing. That you're nasty. Why? Why? Because you're the problem at that point.
Now you gotta understand you're the problem.
You make the storm.
It's just like Jonah when he was in the boat. Everyone was asking what's going on, and
he was the problem.
He was the problem, but he didn't say anything. So he let everybody through their own stuff.
Everybody threw lots. Everybody threw lots off the boat.
Yep. Because probably that's the problem.
They were. Yep. They thought they were feeding everything to their sea god, and when they saw it wasn't working.
It wasn't working until the captain says,
"What God do you serve?" So we could throw whatever we need to calm him down. Let's see who you serve. And then he gets up like and he's like, well, I serve the God of the Jews, and they're like, oh,
I'm the problem.
Yeah,
I'm the problem why your ship is that way.
Exactly.
And then he asked him, okay, so what should we do? Should we drop you into the shore? He's like, you're not gonna make it. Just throw me overboard. That's crazy. Woo! I gotta work for whoever that's watching this. Let me tell you something right now. Whatever Jonah that you have in your boat, okay? Throw him. And that sounds so mean, but when I mean like throw it, I mean throw it. Why? Because this Jonah is making you throw out everything that the Lord has provided for you. All right? Just like the people that were in the boat, they were throwing it. Ahí, como si nada. There's people nowadays that are in your life that want you to do that. So that you can forget where God has positioned you in the process. And that's where you got to start valuing God, because people don't know how to value stuff. They don't. When God puts you in a position, I was telling this to Ciara yesterday, when God places you in a position, value it. Value it before God puts you back. Before God takes you to the beginning and start over. Because that's where humbleness comes into the picture. Remaining in God is not only to like accept his plans. For you to remain in God, you got to learn how to surrender. All right, so let's continue. All right, we have two more questions, quick and easy. All right, I was gonna say verse. Question 4. It says, "What do you think about the generation that we are living in, and what mistakes they make occasionally?"
There's a lot.
Meaning, what mistakes do youth make when it comes to remaining in God?
That I can compare myself with the generation?
Yes.
Okay, so first one is comparison, because now we have social media. Comparison. There's so many lessons with comparison that I've learned. Something quick that maybe a lot of you guys can relate to. So last year I weighed 185 pounds. I gained a lot of weight. My original weight was 150. Okay, so recently I lost a lot of weight. I weigh now 160. There's a reason why I'm saying this. It took a year to lose that weight. I look on social media and these people are lying.
They lie. 2 weeks you can lose weight.
Yeah, 2 weeks, a month. Starve yourself.
Just do these exercises and you'll get abs.
Yes, but
I know what you're talking
But
about.
those comparisons I've come to learn through my personal process is not real.
Yeah.
And some of these people just do. Some people, they'll say, hey, some people are on steroids. Some people are doing surgeries. And nobody's talking about the realistic, sustainable way to lose weight. And so I learned that to not compare. So I would say that's one of the biggest things, comparing. Another example, and I've spoken to you about this millions of times. I used to have like friends on social media that would travel all around the world, guys. All around the world. Not Christian. They departed from the Lord. Travel everywhere. But you guys don't know where they're living. They're living on the streets. They're taking showers in the gyms. They're taking showers like behind the hotel. That's crazy.
So like from what you're telling us, like, what's it called? This generation has, started focusing so much on social media and what they see, and they start to compare their lives to others because they haven't gotten to that point. So they try to get to that point just by what they see.
Yeah, and there's a reality. Everything takes time.
Yeah.
Everything takes time.
It's just that people don't like waiting.
Yes, but there's a price to it. There's a price to all this stuff, and I think the biggest thing. So I would say that's one of the biggest struggles I see the generation facing is the comparison. Another struggle I see the generation facing, is, I would say, seeming like we have a perfect life when we're all going through something.
I'm going through it.
We're all going through it, you know, and just because you see us here, it doesn't mean that we don't go through anything. You know, all we can do is put our faith in God. We can't sit in a corner cry. Like some people will say, like as an example, I'll say for you, maybe they might say, oh, Ruth, you're an evangelist. Why you feel sad?
Yeah, you know how many times people have told me that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, lots of times.
Oh, really?
And you know what? To be honest, this is where it was my fault. Because before, when I started preaching and stuff, I was always that girl that loved transparency. I love showing the reality to people of how it is to be a Christian and how to live it. And even as a minister. But over time, I started posting a lot of sadness, depressing photos, me crying. And you know what that did? People be like, aren't you an evangelist? Don't you live where you preach?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be depressed. And over time, I had to learn that whatever you post, many are not going to understand.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't post it. And I used to post it all the time, and I would get in trouble for it. I used to post it all the time. And one day, my dad confronted me, my pastor, obviously. My dad said, don't post those things because many people are ignorant. People are not going to understand your process as a minister.
And that's why we cannot advertise what we're going through.
We can't.
Because God forbid you're having a bad day. Oh no. So I would say that one of the biggest things for this generation is just also like seeing things and believing things that don't exist. Just one more example that I have that surprised me. So, you know, I started running, right?
Yes.
Started running, and I've been running for a while. And there's been times where, like, I had a family member and they showed me how much they were running. And they said that they did, like, 5 miles or something like that. But their 5 miles were 8 minutes. For any runners out there, you know, 8-minute 5 miles are crazy. You have to be fit.
That's true.
Okay, the max on my runs is 10, okay? Mine are 10 minutes long for 5 miles. And that's me pushing it. So with that being said, I went to my husband. I said, I've been running and I've been trying and I've been doing all this. And I actually was able to go and be with this family member. And I'm going to try to make it as vague as possible. But we went to run a 10-mile run together. They were running at 13 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what they showed me wasn't real.
Wow.
I was shocked what they showed me because they were running a shorter period than me. So I was doing that as a comparison. I was like, wait a second. I've been running for like a year, okay? And my runs are slow. And they pop up, it's been a month, and they're running 8-minute runs. So when I finally linked up with them, I said, let's do this 10-mile run together. We're running at a 13-minute pace. What happened to the 8 minutes?
Oh, Lord.
And they were stopping in between. What happened?
You saw the form. You saw how it was.
No, I came to realize the photo that they sent me of the 8 minutes per mile was a lie.
Yeah.
There was a lie.
Probably they were taking a break and they're like,
Probably.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how I had that in my head and I was so down about it. I was like, dang, like I've been doing this.
Like that.
I've been running, I've been trying my best, and I feel like God, you just like they just athletic. They just woke up and they're athletic.
Nah.
You know?
People be lying.
And people that's what I want to get at. People lie.
People lie.
People
they
lie.
Want to look good.
Some people will say, oh, look, new body, new me, and it's all photoshopped, the whole thing.
Or is that they got, and there's no problem with this, I don't know. But
there's no
they got
problem.
Surgery.
But here's my thing with that.
Beginning.
Here's my thing with that. There's nothing wrong if you decide to do surgery.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
But here's my problem. Don't lie to the people on how you got there.
Yes. That's what I don't
That's
like.
the problem.
Because people, oh my Lord.
Because when I found out how long it takes
true.
to actually healthily, like the way you healthily lose weight,
yeah,
it's taken me a year and change.
That's true.
We're in the new year. And I still weigh 160 something pounds. I'm like 160, 160.
But you're gonna change.
Yes, but it took a year.
Yeah.
As opposed to what they be showing 3 months.
3 months.
Skinny bodies.
Unless
small backs.
You're really training hard, off topic, but if you're really training hard for like, you know, those shows
Yeah.
bodybuilder shows
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. If you're doing that, you're doing that. But if a lifestyle, it takes time.
For healthy,
You need
sustainable
your-
weight.
Yeah, you need
Because some people, they'll say, what's that noise?
no, they got not.
Sorry. Because some people, they'll say, 3 months, 4 months. I honestly, with my weight loss, I was like, I don't know how they were losing weight in 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Because I was losing at least 1 pound to 2 pounds, maybe every week or something, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, not every week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day.
So, not comparing. There is a realistic outlook and overview and stuff. And I think one of the biggest things I admire about Ruth is that her ministry has been not only centered in God, but it has not been rushed.
No.
And the reason why I find that so important is because if you guys ever wonder, well, there's these ministers, and these ministers, they live an ungodly lifestyle, and you guys, sometimes we judge them. We judge the people that are living this ungodly lifestyle. But here's the reality: that how fast they got famous.
Yes.
How fast they got famous. How fast we put them on the altar. How fast they didn't even go through a process. We just throwing them up the next day. But Ruth, as an example, she's been doing this for years. So by the time, the Lord allows her to do more, it's like she's already in a place where she knows what God expects. She knows how to act.
Yeah.
She knows what to do. She's not going to let it get to her head. And that's why people like her, Yesenia thing, I kind of put them in the same bracket because it's a process.
And
Yesenia
glory to God for that.
did not wake up and become the same thing. That's not how that works.
That took time. That really took time. And to be honest, it takes time, and because it's like remaining in God, it's not an easy thing. It's not, because you really got to go against with a lot of things. And you might lose people for it. You might lose your job for it. You might lose, it's not easy. It's like, I think, how many times I have told my director, no, I can't work because I have to go preach. And even though that day I could love to go make some money, I'm like, no, I have to go to church. So it takes time. And I tell this to my youths too, because they do ask me, how do you get where you're, how did you get there? And I said, by suffering. By suffering sometimes. By suffering, but being able to remain in God. The moment where I disobeyed, I learned how to obey. The moment when I wanted to learn His voice, I asked God, I want to learn your voice. You tiene que ser dispuesto.
You have to be willing.
You have to be willing. Because if you're not willing, then I'm sorry, you won't be able to get where you want to be with God. So it takes time. I mean, I have been, and it's going to be almost, never mind. On November the 18th, if I'm correct. Yeah, on November the 18th, 2021, that was the day where I was anointed as an evangelist. I was 17 years old. Didn't know anything. I didn't ask that to God. I was like, God, I want to preach your word. That's it. That's all. And that was a point in my life, and I'm gonna end it with this. That was a point in my life where I lost everybody, and I had to preach that same night.
Wow.
And the word that the Lord has given to me, I still remember until this day. The dust is dimming your light, and that was a word for me. That the dust that I had in the beginning was taking space for what was taking space of the purpose that the Lord had displayed for me. That same night, I preached to the youths, and I gave out the word, and the Lord did what He needed to do, and that's where we're still here. And soon we will be 5 years of this ministry, 5 years, and probably people might see like I'm not doing so much. It's just that God is taking His time. I like to let God take His time. I like to take my time. So, it all comes remaining in God and knowing who you really are, because it's all about identity too. It's all about identity. It's all about who you are in God. So, yeah. So, any advice for any youths out there that's watching this?
Don't compare. Enjoy your age when you are at that age. Don't ask God to rush anything. Enjoy. If you're a teenager, enjoy your teens because you're only a teen once. What I mean by that is within that set from 13 to 19. You're only there like in those years once. Your 20s, you're only in your 20s once. You don't get to go backwards. You're only moving forward. Yeah. So just enjoy your time in Christ. Enjoy your youth. Enjoy, your adolescence. And just enjoy it. And that's it.
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Thanks so much, Ciara, to be with us. We're really excited to be able to see what God is going to do with you. Mm-hmm. I know God is going to allow your ministry to grow and flourish in His time. Amen. And like I said, that's if you're willing for it. Yep. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Follow her on her social medias. Go support. Please, please, please support her ministry so that the Lord can do so much things with her. Amen. And even her husband as well, which y'all will see a new video coming up too as well with her husband and her. Yeah. It's going to be some good questions because it'll be about relationships. So if you're in a relationship, if you're a couple, if you're married, that would be a perfect video for you. Amen. They're such a good example. So I can't wait to make that video in a few. So I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. And yes, God bless. God bless.